Now, see, we will learn about the science and technology. We will learn under the heading of the development of science, how the science is developed. This is bit history like thing we all are going to learn. Then, what is the nature of the science? Then, science and superstitions, science in everyday life. So in a very simpler way we will start how the science is developed. Now when we talk about the development of science, so the history of science is the study of the historical development of human, because the human develop, and with the human the science is developed. So understanding of natural world and the domain of the social science, development of science, we should always start into the ancient time, that how the science is developed. So when we talk about the development of science in the ancient culture, now ancient culture is approximate 7,000 years ago, okay, till the 8th century. So this period is characterized by very humble development in the field of science. It gives the impetus to the development of the science into the later period also. When we talk about the old state, so developmental of science occurs with the oral transfer of the knowledge. Oral transfer of knowledge means,
By
yes.
saying it, passing it
Yes,
through
by
words.
saying in the prehistoric time, there was no special mechanism, or you can say the method of writing or storing the information, or you can say simply they were not having any idea to save the information. So, how they used to save the this particular knowledge by simply saying in the form of advice. So yeah, orally this knowledge was passing from generation to generation. At that particular time writing skill was not developed. Simple example, maize cultivation. If you will see that maize, those who are eating maize, they know it is a type of crop. So this cultivation, if you will see, to it has started about 9,000 years into the southern Mexico, and the knowledge of cultivation was passed from generation to generation orally, because no written evidences are there. Also archaeological evidences indicate that the development of the astronomical knowledge was also in the it was there, but how they were transferring the knowledge only by the saying, because at that time the development of the writing was not there. Then after that development of writing was done, development of writing enabled the knowledge to be stored into the form, or you can say into a proper format. Now see, writing, because of the writing the fidelity increases. What do you mean by fidelity? Fidelity means accuracy, you can say, quality of being faithful or loyal. So whatever knowledge is we are getting, it is more and more accurate. Now see, whatever we say, the human mind, they may tend to forget, and what I have learned while passing to the next generation, I may change some word or something, but if it is written, it is always into the proper format. It will go as a discrete character, all right. So after doing the researches, it is suggested that the idea of an alphabet in which one alphabet stand, or you can say one symbol that stands only for one sound, this thing was started using into the Egypt about 1900 BC. You can say approximate 4,000 years ago. Some sources also state that the writing was first developed into the Sumer about 5,000 years ago. This is bit like history topic. Now, where the paper was invented, paper was invented into the China in the early in second century. This can be asked into the MCQ, that paper was invented into the China in the second century AD. Before that, written communication was done on the rocks or shells. In the same way, it was done into the West and into the Middle East also. They were using somewhere they were using leaves, somewhere they were using the rock, and some various formats were there to store. But after that, when the paper was invented, they started writing on the paper. Now same way, West may, Middle East may, everywhere they were using the same mechanism, and the ancient Chinese invented their own system of symbols that eventually become an alphabet now. The development of writing combined with the development of the agriculture. Now this allows the surplus of the food. It became possible for early civilization to develop because more time could be devoted to the task other than the survival. Because see, in the earlier time they were just hunting and they were eating whatever they were getting. So for survival, for eating, they were investing so much of time that they were not having time to do anything else. So this science or the development of the knowledge, because why they were doing all hunting only earlier people, because they were not having any idea of the cultivation. When they learned the cultivation, they got okay, after cultivation I am going to get the food, and that food will be sufficient for me. So now they have this some extra time, they do not need to hunt for the food. So that extra time help them to develop the more and more tasks. Then astronomical information, what do you mean by that?
regarding the skies, the stars,
Hmm.
the planet.
Yes. So many ancient civilization they collected the astronomical information, and this information, now see, they were not having any knowledge of the real physical structure of the planet, stars. Many theory they just explain and they propose basic fact about human physiology were known in some places, and alchemy was practiced in the several civilization from the beginning into the swimmer. Now this is known as the Iraq. Around 3500 BC, the people of Mesopotamia, now it is the again ancient name of the Iraq only, they started recording of the some of the observation of the world with the help of the numerical data, but their observation and measurement were seemingly taken for the scientific laws. So the concrete instance of the Pythagoras law was recorded early into the 18th century BC. Now, when we talk about the astronomy, so in the Babylonian astronomy, noting of the motion of the star, planet, and moon, they all are left on the thousands of clay tablets, which was created by the scribes. Even today, astronomical period identified by the Mesopotamian scientists, they are still using the Western calendars such as the solar year and the lunar month. Using this data, they developed the arithmetic method to compute the changing length of daylight in the course of year, and to predict the appearance and the disappearance of the moon. How this moon is appearing, how this moon is getting smaller in size, then what are the planets and what are the eclipses of the sun and the moon. So this Babylonian astronomy was the first and the highly successful attempt. You need to remember it is Babylonan. So, Babylonian astronomy was the first and highly successful attempt, and which gives the refined mathematical description of the astronomical phenomena. According to the history, above all subsequent varieties of the scientific astronomy in the Hellenistic world, in India, in Islam, and in the West, if not indeed all subsequent endeavor into the exact science, all this depend on the Babylonic astronomy in the decisive and the fundamental way. Means all things that everything which is related into the ancient time, it all relates to the Babylonian astronomy only. So you need to remember only one name that question can be asked. Now, mathematics and medicine. Ancient Egypt, they make the significant advances into the astronomy, mathematics, as well as the medicines. Their development of the geometry was necessary outgrowth of surveying, pursue layout, ownership of farmland. Now they were doing the whatever rules they were forming about the triangle, and also the 3, 4, 5, right, triangle and other rules were used to build the rectilinear structure. Egypt, they were also the center of alchemy research for the much of the Mediterranean. Now you might have seen many. In case of Egypt, lots of development was there in the ancient period also. Now development of the science into the classical era. Now this classical era is the 8th century BC to the 6th century. Now this particular era, or you can say the classical period, it is a broad term for the cultural history Now see, lots of invention done, because as I told you, now the people they had time, they learn the cultivation and all. So this particular period, it ranges from the 800 BC to 500 AC, about 1300 years. This classical antiquity, also known as the classical area, it is a long period for the historical culture centered on the Mediterranean Sea. It comprised of the interlocking civilization of ancient Greece and the ancient Rome. It is important to note down that it comprises civilization of the ancient Greece and the ancient Rome. Collectively, this is known as the Greco-Roman world. Greco-Roman world. This period in which Greek and Roman society they flourished, they widened great influence through the Europe. Now, when we talk about the important of this particular period, it is that some philosopher of those time they have contributed to the development of science during the classical area. One by one, we will just learn about those philosopher and their contribution, what they all have done. This is very important thing in this particular unit. So the first philosopher was the Thales. uh, he was the Greek philosopher. He dubbed as the father of the science. He was the first to postulate the non-supernatural phenomena. For example, land floats on water, and that the earthquakes are caused by the agitation of water upon which the land floats, rather than act of God and all. Because see, in the ancient time, people were just believing that there is a supernatural, or you can say the god is there, and the god is responsible for everything. And they used to believe that any act, everything is happening by the saying of god. Okay, but even then, now they started worshipping to the trees, they started worshipping to the stones. If they are facing, suppose one generation they are facing the earthquake, so they started worshipping to the earth, some are worshipping to the sun. So various format of the worship were there, but he was the first who gave the idea that there is something which is happening because of the, there is a power, and that power is non supernatural power, and his phenomena is called as the non supernatural phenomena. And he gave a very simple and a very decent example. He said that the earth is flowing on the water, so with the agitation of the water, earthquake comes. So it was the idea, and this was the beginning, or you can say was the boom of the science. Then again, the next, now here they are philosopher, but usually we call them as the scientists. Pythagoras of Samos island near the Turkey. He was the student of the Thales. He founded the Pythagorean school, which investigate the mathematics of its own sake, and they start postulate that Earth is spherical in shape. So again, he gave the idea about the Earth. Yes, Earth is there, and Earth is also having a shape. Otherwise, there was no idea that the Earth could be a planet. It may have any type of the shape. So he said that yes, there is ending of the Earth also, and it has a perfect spherical shape. Then the next philosopher was the Leucippus, 5th century BC. Now he introduced the atomism, the theory all matter is made up of the indivisible and impermeable unit that called as atom. Now, student, we need to remember here. Science students know what is the atom in very well, but we should know atom is something. Suppose one matter is there. Okay, say example your chalk. So the, if you will write with the chalk, some dust particle is falling from that. So that small minute particle which cannot be further divided, that is called as the atom. So this atom idea or atomism was introduced by the Leucippus. He said that the atom is the only unit which cannot be divided, and like this many atoms they combine and they form the matter. So this was greatly expanded by his student Democritus. Then thereafter, the Plato, he was the first to produce a systematic discussion of the natural philosophy. He shaped the later investigation of the nature. The development of the deductive reasoning was particularly important to the later scientists. Now, what is the deductive reasoning? That see, there are two type of reasoning. One is the inductive reasoning, yeah, in which we form the specific idea, induce some knowledge, and we make the theory. And deductive reasoning is opposite of that, that we have a broad theory and out of that we are coming to the specific point, so that is general to specific. So this deductive reasoning was postulated by the Plato, and he gave the idea of the natural philosophy. Then his student Aristotle, he introduced the empiricism and the notion universal truth can be arrived via the observation and induction. He laid the foundation of all the scientific method. He said that if you want to observe anything and if you want to accept anything, we should do the experiment. So he was having bit experimental mind. He also produced many biological writing that were empirical in nature. He also gave the idea of the evolution also, which is not given in your syllabus. Focusing on the biological causation and diversity of life, he made countless observation of the nature,
Even
especially what. Yes.
division of animals and plants into groups were all given in
I
here.
didn't get you.
Division of plants and animals into different
Yes,
classes and
that
phyla
is
were
called
given
as
by
the
here.
taxonomy. Aristotle was the one who gave the idea of the taxonomy. Taxonomy means the labeling. So he was the first to talk about that. He did lots many observation of the nature, that where they stay. So the first taxonomy idea. See, although we when we talk about the taxonomy, so we say that the Carl's Linnaeus was the first who gave the, and he is only called as the idea of the taxonomy. But as you told, division of the plants and animals. So the basic idea of the taxonomy, he was the first who gave the idea that this is the animal, this is the plant. So anything which is doing and which is immovable, he suggested that this is the plant. And the movable thing also, in the he divided the animals in three categories on the basis of their habit, actually not habitat, you can say. He made three categories. One is the flying, swimming on, and the walking. So likewise, so see, at his time this thing was very remarkable. Okay, now we think like we know, we even not see the Carl Linnaeus taxonomy also. We go ahead, we have the five kingdom classification and all modification. But the basic idea was given by the Aristotle only. He classified more than 540 animal species, and dissected at least 50 to see what is there in their body. So Aristotle writing profoundly influenced subsequent Islam and European scholarship, though they were eventually suppressed in the scientific revolution. Because see, they were doing their researches, but they in the middle stadium they did not spread the knowledge. They were just keeping in their books, and they were passing it to their generation only. But all this, they have influenced all this knowledge from the Aristotle also. Then next was the Aristotle. He was also from the Samos in the 200 BC, was the first known person to propose the heliocentric model of the solar system. Now, the heliocentric model is a theory that places sun at the center of the universe, and the planets are just moving, or you can say orbiting around it. So this heliocentric model replaced the geocentrism, which is the belief that earth is at the center of the universe. Currently the Nicholas Copernicus is the given credit for the heliocentric model. So this was the basic idea, heliocentric model, that sun is at the center and it is having planet around it. Now see, I told you in the earlier time they were not having any idea that, that earth is there, earth is having some shape and also that at 200 BC this was a very very great information at that time. Now the another philosopher, Eratosthenes. Thin, he was the first accurately calculate the circumference of the earth. Student, circumference means taking,
The
now suppose I
the
want to
outer
take
surface.
the surface, so circumference of my screen is this, all its border, okay. So covering or calculating the area. So he was the one, Eratosthenes, he was the first who calculated the circumference of the earth. Now he found that the circumference of the earth at the equator is approximate 25,000 miles. The earth rotates about 24 hours, that is about 30 kilometer per second. This point is important for the MCQ purpose. This can be asked. Okay, I repeat this thing again. The circumference of earth at the equator is 25,000 miles. The earth rotates in about 24 hours, that is about 30 kilometer per second. Again, if you want to convert it into the mile, that is 18.5 miles per second or 67,000 miles per hour. Okay, so this was the basic idea given by him. Then the next philosopher was the Hippocrates, and his followers, they were first to describe about the medicine. So his contribution is into the medicine, and he understand many diseases. He understand many medical conditions, because see, in the earlier time any disease was considered as the punishment from the god. If anyone is suffering from anything, they used to say that the person is punished by the god. And that person, they used to say, if only a single person is getting any type of the disease, they used to keep him away from the family, that the person is cursed by the nature, he should not stay in the family. And if he falls severely ill, so they used to just remove him from the entire village, and they used to ask that person, they used to force that person actually to go to the forest and stay their life there. So Hippocrates, he was the first to give the idea about the medicine and disease. And he was the still the many knowledge whatever he has given, that is the oath for the physician, still relevant and in use to the today's world. Now next was the Euclid. He is very famous, everybody knows his name, that he was the one who has given down the foundation of mathematics rigor, and he introduced the concept of definition, axioms, theorem, and the proof. Those who all hate geometry, please listen. Who has done this? Who has brought all this idea? Because 10th standard many student they don't like के बाबा ये क्यों हमको proof करना है. So this all the idea which we still use in today is was given by the Euclid. In his book Element, he was considered to be the most influential textbook ever written into the mathematics. Then next was the Archimedes. He also considered as one of the greatest mathematician of all the time. He is credited with using the methods of exhaustion of calculate the area under the arc of a parabola with the summation of an infinite series. He also gave the remarkable accurate approximation of pi. He is also known in physics for laying the foundation of statistic and explanation of the principle of level, that level which we are using today for inclining surface was originally designed by him. Now there are many other philosophers also in the classical area who have contributed their ideas. The first was the Hipparchus. He produced the first systematic star catalogue. Then next was the Antikythera. The level of achievement in Hellenistic astronomy and engineering impressively shown by him. The mechanism analog computer for calculating the position of planet, and all this idea that all this planet have some position into the sky, everything was given by him. Then Herophilus was the first to base his conclusion on dissection of human body. See, quote this thing, he was the first who has done the human body dissection, and he described the nervous system in detail. Then we will talk about a surgeon. that is the Galen. He performed many audacious operations, including the brain, eye surgeries that were not tried again almost for 2000 years. He has done. Okay, his followers also did, but after that, almost 2000 years, no surgery was done after him. Then the last was the Theophrastus. He has given the early description of the plant and animal. You can say simple first taxonomy he has built. As I told you, the base or the foundation of taxonomy was done by the Aristotle, as I have learned his history. So I know it. And looking at the minerals, another contribution, he was looking at the minerals in terms of their properties such as hardness and all this idea was given by the Theophrastus. So this is all about all philosopher and their view. This is just rote learning. You all have to remember all this. If you have any doubt, you can ask me now, or if you want me to repeat anything, you can ask. No doubts. So we can end now.